He is the chosen one. You must see it.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Is it the chosen one?
He is.
And it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace.
It's not whether or not we fight.
It's how we choose to fight that matters.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
The Force will be with you, always.
And I will not be the last Jedi.
You're listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we have been marathoning all of Star Wars in lead up to The Rise of Skywalker. This week, we're talking about two little episodes in Star Wars Rebels, a preamble to the Season 3 finale. We are talking This Is Our Rebellion and Double Agent Droid. My name is Yates.
My name is Keats.
My name is Jessica.
The first episode is all about Mon Mothma, so she is introduced. We pick up with her story after having not seen her in a really long time, and her only having a small role up until this point. And she's on the run from the Empire. She had said some incendiary things in the Senate, and the Emperor wants her out of the picture. To counter that, there's this big meeting that's happening, and it's the formal foundation of the Rebel Alliance, where all the cells are coming together for the first time and forming a larger organization.
We saw your speech on the HoloNet. You really let the Emperor have it.
I only wish words had more of an impact.
Senator, let's forget this mission and get you back to Chandrila to a proper hiding place.
No hiding. My presence at the meeting is not optional.
You mean the meeting?
Ask and I trust them to get me there.
I mean, honestly, this show is like a gift.
It is a gift.
I mean, separating it even from Star Wars, how great is it to have a kids show that's all about resisting an evil empire, building up a rebellion.
Yeah. It seems like a small story, but it's I'm really happy that this is the story.
Because this is when they finally start calling it the Rebel Alliance.
Right.
That's so fucking cool. Mm-hmm. We saw Mon Mothma. She looks like Julie Andrews.
Wow, she does look like Julie Andrews. We don't get... Mon Mothma isn't an incredibly compelling character or anything, but she's kind of just one of those characters that you need in order to just fill out the world. And now I'm glad that she's been... we can now experience her transformation in whatever way over the course of all this content. She's one of those characters I always think about when it's at this point now where I was oh, we have the benefit of having actually been able to watch this in chronological order. She was in the Clone Wars for a couple seconds.
We've made great strides in our fight against this bill.
She was in that deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith with Padme where they're talking about starting the Rebel Alliance.
We are not separatists trying to leave the Republic. We are loyalists trying to preserve democracy in the Republic.
She's in Rogue One.
We will need every advantage.
Your friend, the Jedi.
Other characters don't get this type of treatment, so it's cool to see her.
And did she say that she said that thing on purpose to try to get attention from everyone? I think so. It was kind of a political gambit to make sure that the rebellion was as large as it could be now that it's going to kick off. Which I like that. We watched it twice, Keats. I liked it more this time, and there was a couple of little things that I picked up that I like. First of all, I like the whole idea of just the rebellion on the run angle in the story. Just it really hit me this time, how desperate they are, and kind of they're making it out Mon Mothma's this. She's the most important person. If we don't get her here, it's over. But they are just so strapped for cash and supplies and for everything.
They even drop their fuel at one point just because that's the norm now. Just all right, let's just let go of the fuel and let's get out of here.
They even lose the gigantic transport ship and the fuel. They lose everything in the first few minutes.
So I guess it makes sense why at this point they have to formalize things more. Mm-hmm. So is the Ghost Crew the main rebel fleet? Would you call it a fleet?
It's large.
It's definitely tricky because it can feel that way, but they kind of hint and drop little sentences here and there talking about that there's rebellion factions all across the galaxy. So we're kind of just seeing one perspective of it, even though it feels like they're the core of it. I really liked how we saw Thrawn in this episode talking about, like, you know, if we get to capture Mon Mothma, we can finally get the larger rebellion that's out there. So I can't tell if there's, like, an actual larger rebellion or if it's just, like, they're kind of, like, in the dark on, like, who's, like, what the rebellion actually is, and they think that there's, like, this giant rebellion.
I mean, I think that they probably collect data from, like, all of the smaller rebellions, and they know that, like, there's dissent in general, so, like, they probably can tell that, like, something is starting to organize, and, like...
And I also think, like, I think the distinction between, like, the idea of a fleet is that, like, the fleet literally is what military resources they have at their disposal, which is a couple of gigantic ships and, like, then all the groups of smaller fighters and stuff. But I feel like the actual Rebel Alliance, like, we've said at many points that there's a bunch of different roles in which people fill out in the rebellion. Like, even this season we got the industrial espionage on Lothal. Like, now that the rebellion is about to organize fully, they will be part of that web, like this industrial espionage part. And even Saw Gerrera on the episode last week as well, he came with his own group of soldiers. Like, there's a part where they pick up, like, these are his soldiers, like, they're their own little unit somewhere else. So, like, there's people all over, but I think, like, the most flashy way to show it to us is to have 17 ships jump out of hyperspace.
Yeah, I love that. And you also bring up a good point, like, in terms of, like, it's not really the military supplies as much with the Rebels. Like, I feel like the Rebels, it's all about just, like, the sheer force of will of the people. Whereas it's the opposite with the Empire. Like, for them, it's really all about the infrastructure.
It's all about technology.
It's all about, like, how much infrastructure they have, and, like, every person is, like...
totally expendable.
Yeah, exactly. But every rebel that you lose is, like... oh, fuck, like...
Yeah, like, even in this episode, I didn't even notice it the first time, but one Rebel pilot, like, literally just, like, sacrifices herself, like, in the course of, like, 3 seconds. I didn't even notice it the first time. She's like, they're locked on to the Ghost, and they're about the ship fires, and she just jumps, like, right into the line of fire and blows up, and that's, like, the way that they get away. And it's just, like,
God. Like,
really heavy.
It's super heavy, and I always, like, feel it really hard whenever, like, someone from the Rebels is lost, like, in any Star Wars thing. I just feel like they go so far in, like, the ways that they maneuver and think, like, that whole thing with
going down into the star
going down into the star and then, like, blowing up the star to, like, blow up the Empire's ship, like...
Right.
Someone from the Empire, like, would never do that. Like, they never go that far.
It would be too dangerous. Like, they're like, or they're just not even thinking on that level.
They're just like, they don't have to think like that.
They have so many resources for power, they aren't, like, forced to think creatively.
Yeah, I mean, and in most cases they don't need to, but that's kind of what... I mean, I guess that's kind of what the Rebels have always been about, even just going back to the first movie, is like that was always sort of like the disparity between, like, the Empire, the big technological wonder, and then you have the Rebels who are just flying hand-me-downs out of a jungle, but they're the ones that keep winning.
If the Empire loses, someone just, like, yells at them, but if the Rebels lose, it's, like, life or death.
Or life or death of, like, their planet, you know, like
freedom itself.
Mon Mothma and Hera at one point sit down and share what is presumably a coffee with each other. Maybe you want to have a coffee, but it's a very small sort of heart-to-heart exchange where they just talk about...
like, philosophy and the political climate.
I've spent my life in the Senate, trying to do good, to preserve the rights of the people.
And we are grateful.
A little good it's done. The Emperor has crushed freedom over the years, bit by bit. I've opposed him where I could, but I've begun to see that the fight cannot be won in the Senate.
The stakes are a bit higher out here on the front lines. Instead of being outvoted, you're outgunned.
Life or death.
The scene just reminded me a lot of, like, because Mon Mothma is in Return of the Jedi. She's in Rogue One for like 4 seconds. There's, like, a couple books I've read where she's, like, a very key component in it, and so, like, just seeing, like, a scene of her having, like, a 2-minute human-to-human interaction reminded me of, like, how much of a friendly presence she is, like, in all of Star Wars. Like, she's like Leia's best friend when she's growing up, and she's, like, the main, like, ruler of Naboo, I think, at one point, like, during the New Republic times. She's, like, retiring, and then Leia is, like, given a dilemma to, like, take her position or to, like, go to the front lines, the resistance. Just cool things like that Mon Mothma is involved in the background always, and we don't get to like see that enough. She's just one of those characters you see and you're like, I want to know more about her, but she's always in the background doing good things.
So in that sense, having that smaller moment with them was nice, because she doesn't really get those. Normally she's in the meeting room and telling soldiers what to do and stuff like that, or in the Senate chamber.
I like whenever they bring like people from the Senate into stuff, because it
you were
shows
just
how
talking
there's
about
like lots of different avenues to participate. But it did feel kind of like when she was saying like doing stuff through the Senate is like no longer gonna do anything. I was like, where have you been, lady? What's been going on there? Like, it would be cool to like see what's going on there in the Senate.
I think it's a shame that they don't touch that stuff
Maybe
more.
they'll do something like that.
I'm hoping. I would definitely like to see that. I also just think it's really just fascinating, like exactly what you're saying, like exploring characters that are still trying to like their hardest to do something in the Senate, even if it's just like one bill that's passed that protects people. Like, I imagine that's got to be what it is. It's got to be like all this bickering and all this really putting yourself out there to even just pass this one bill that'll send like aid to like this small planet.
Wait, I just had a brilliant idea. You know how in Pixar movies, how they have like the little short before the movie, and they're like really good? They should have those
for Star Wars?
before every Star Wars movie.
Yeah, that would be great.
They should have like an animated short, because like I feel like that would be such a good animated short, just seeing like a senator trying to do something good.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like against all odds and like actually succeeding. Listening, Disney.
Like shorts before films are like completely like undervalued. Like, they need to be like...
Fuck trailers. Give us shorts.
Yeah, give us shorts.
Give us both. I'd fucking be there for an extra hour just watching shorts and trailers.
Okay, that's a good point.
Drinking beer. I'd fucking buy a bunch more shit at the movie theater.
I thought it was cool that the speech at the end is kind of like Mon Mothma taking a page out of Ezra's book. Like, because that's like a 2-year-old thing at this point about Ezra doing the radio broadcast.
Stand up together. Because that's when we're strongest. As one.
Despite Imperial threats, despite the Emperor himself, I have no fear as I take new action. For I am not alone. Beginning today, we stand together as allies. I hereby resign from the Senate to fight for you.
It was very like inspirational, which is like so cliche at this point, but every time it still gets me because I'm a sucker. Like, it's still.
Yeah, I liked it.
I find it.
I would have liked more, but it was. I liked it, and the music swells. Yeah, I wish it was a little heavier too, but that's fine. I still enjoyed it.
But yeah, I watched it with my girlfriend. Like, she told me when it was over that this was like one of her favorite endings. And because it was the first time I watched it, and I was like, oh, it's a small story. It ended, and I was like, that was okay. But I like looked over to her, and she was like really moved by it, and that just made me really happy that like this episode can move people.
In the double agent droid, guess what? One of our droids, he's a double agent.
He's kind of a triple agent.
Because
they double agent stuff all the time.
Good point. Fuck. You know, the only person who sees through this is AP5, who gets on everyone's nerves and no one wants to listen to him. And
he talks a lot.
He does talk a lot.
I'm in a world all my own. I do not feel alone. It's easy to see I fit perfectly in this wonderful, beautiful suit. No, go away. I was so happy.
Yeah, he really loves to talk.
Yeah, I love how he walks into the room to get the codes, and it's just like a wide shot of the entire like empty room, and he's only talking to himself.
Can we even imagine, like, we saw it, what his life was like before in the episode he was introduced, but he seems like he really needs people to talk to. Yeah, and he wasn't getting that before.
This episode made me a little sad because I was thinking about like how much they were like stepping on him, and I mean even literally at one point like Hera kicks him in the face. But
Hera kicks him in the face.
Yeah, like when the airlock is like messed up and everyone's flying out, she like kicks him to get ahead.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah, but anyway, that aside, like It made me think about how back when AP5 was introduced, he even like asked Chopper, like one of the first things he said was like,
The rebel fleet, why would I go there? How do I know your rebels will treat me better than the Empire? Because I am your friend.
even treat me any differently
That's
than the
a good
Empire.
point.
And like here's like a complete, like clear example of them.
Dude wants to die instead of going back. He just wants to die in space with space butterflies.
Well, he might not have died. He might have gone off to their space butterfly colony.
That's true. I like that. I thought that was very beautiful.
Oh my god, that was so fucking cool.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love when they like take a cool like risk like that.
Yeah, Jordan is asleep in the other room right now, but audience, he told me to tell you that this is his favorite thing ever, and he loves it so much. So much that he had to go to sleep. And
It reminded me of like the Leia flying thing.
Leia Poppins, more Julianne.
But it was like actually, it was actually done in like a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like hers. I was just like, I think I get what they're trying to do here, but I'm not sure. But
I feel like giving the first musical number in Star Wars to a droid is more
Makes
appropriate
so much sense.
than if like Poe Dameron or Kylo Ren was to like start singing. Like you give it to a droid and it's just like he's so
it seems like real. Like it would actually happen.
Yeah. Exactly. I feel almost like it's like the social ineptitude. Like he doesn't know how to connect with people, so like he has to sing his little musical number in order to like express what he is actually feeling.
Is it that he doesn't know how to connect with people, or that people don't know how to connect with him?
That's a good point, because definitely seems like a lot of people don't connect with him.
It's a two-way thing, because I think he can get on people's nerves, but also that kind of causes people to like not communicate with him.
I would be very angry and ornery all the time if people were constantly like treating me like a second-class citizen.
I'm just curious how much AP5 is like aware of like what he's doing, or like is aware of what the social dynamic even is.
I'm just like, I think that like he is just annoying because like that's how droids are written to be. Is like have very strong personalities. But also like it's such a trope where we have like the droid episode where no one listens to the droid and the droid ends up being right and like trying to save everyone's lives and like doing something amazing, and then everyone at the end is like, we'll treat you better next time,
and then it's status quo the next
and then
episode.
It's like status quo until the next episode that's the exact same fucking way.
I think that one scene drove Jordan crazy where AP5 was like, as I've been saying repeatedly, that Chopper is messed up, and then Wedge is like, I like what you're saying, Hera.
Yes, that was so great. I love that.
Yeah, no, it was good. I feel like, to your point, Keats, like it could have been depressing just watching like 20 minutes of everyone shitting on AP5, but they got it just the right way, where sometimes you felt bad for him and sometimes it was just genuinely pretty funny. So that was good. That was cool.
I have something to say.
Okay.
And that is, as you were saying, with like how AP5 is shat on, when he did go back and talk to the lady who was of his whatever same
yeah.
and then he was like, God, like he had come so far.
PC7, I remember.
There we go.
And he had come Windows 98. And he had come so far, like, in his thinking from, like, who he used to be her, and now he's like, God, they can't think for themselves. Like, the Empire doesn't give a shit about these droids or something.
Yeah, no, he did say that. Yeah, I like,
that was cool.
I feel like they do a good job with AP5, because, and I guess they probably do with Chopper too, but Chopper's like, he doesn't talk. But AP5 is like, we got a lot of instances where we, like, see what's important to him, and like we understand his perspective as a robot, which is really cool. Like moments like that where he's like walking through the hallways and then he's like, this is just the most organized hallway I've ever seen in my life. Like,
I love
this
that.
is perfect.
I related to that.
Yeah, it's cool. And like even the end, like given like also kind of like how bleak it is, and he like just doesn't like being around people. Like it just makes sense. Like he'd want to be like in the stars, just like counting stars like the rest of his life, or with these like all these space and like that just makes sense of like he would much rather prefer that than having to deal with people
One thing I did pick up on that was like a little bit of a good thing was like I guess Wedge is like the one that actually like treats them nicely, because like Wedge actually like dismisses Chopper for a second, asking him to go somewhere else just so he could like have a heart-to-heart with AP5 at one moment.
Yeah,
that's
that
cool.
was cute.
And I feel like that is like something like that's a
really
human
cute.
element that Wedge was able to bring
Wedge.
to him.
Luke and R2 were always also like very chummy. Like Luke never talks down to R2. They're always like buddy. Everyone kind of talks down to C-3PO.
I like the scene where he was in the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember
funny.
laughing my head off when I first saw that.
Dude, bathrooms. Did you know people had to use the bathrooms in Star Wars?
And they call it the refresher.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's some deep cuts.
That's
some trivia night shit.
Welcome, one and all, to the World Between Worlds Trivia Night, a game of cunning wits and cutting queries. Our first question. Within the Star Wars universe, if one of your Wookiee pals were to walk up to you and ask to use the bathroom, what exactly would that be called?
And they call it the refresher.
I'm sorry, Jessica, that is close, but I'm afraid you did not state the answer in Shrywook.
What the fuck?
On to you, Chewie. Perfect enunciation. Isn't trivia just the best?
I really liked the dorky-looking cyborg analytics team.
The team, yeah, I like them a lot too.
I want
to know more about them.
Yeah, I really like just their kind of like robotic inflection, and also this sort of like ties into Sibo in season 1, because he was getting.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Something's wrong. What's that thing on his head?
Empire's been known to implant lower-level technicians with cybernetic circuits. Personality sacrificed for productivity.
These people are cyborgs.
Yeah.
right? Fuck.
So that was cool.
It was cool seeing like a new, like the kind of like technocratic, like fucking like what they're doing with like all of our phones and shit, like tracking everyone's data.
That's way cool. Honestly, that's probably like
it reminded me of like a Michael Crichton movie.
They need to do more with it.
Yes, I would definitely like to see more of that in the future. That was the only time they showed up, and it makes me wonder how big is this thing that they have, whatever it is.
Also, it would be like a good social commentary, like of modern warfare.
Yeah, not just like the same.
They do always rely on this thing where I'm not going to say trope because I've said trope like 20 times. They always.
It's becoming a trope of yours.
Yeah. Tropes within tropes. Tropeception.
How about trait?
But anyways, like where the Empire screws themselves over by trying to get a promotion. It's like, oh, like we could just catch them right now and get a promotion, but we're gonna like follow them until they get away and foil the plot.
The lower management were like, are we sure we want to do this? But upper management was like, no, we're definitely doing this.
That guy was played by Josh Gad. Speaking of musical stuff, the guy who played Olaf in Frozen.
How do you know that?
Oh, did we talk about Olaf on the podcast already?
We did talk about Olaf. We had I forget what the it was the last Jar Jar episode we talked about Olaf for 5 minutes.
Olaf is becoming a world between the worlds trope.
Yeah, we have to stay away from Olaf.
I also thought these technocratic cyborg characters were weirdly designed.
Well, I liked how weird.
It was good weird.
Yeah.
I agree.
It read to me like just super 70s is what I got out of it, and that's what I liked because
reminded me of like Andromeda Strain or like something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Michael Crichton post-apocalyptic.
I thought they looked like more like modern day people instead of like Nazis from the 50s.
Right,
you know
that's true.
Like,
that's true.
More like,
they have a very specific aesthetic, and this does not really match up with that exactly.
No, but it was cool. And I liked how they all like got electrocuted to death, and then their ship exploded.
They did it so easy though.
I was gonna say it was like kind of a hard sell that like you just were like, revert the power back, and then it's like the entire Star Destroyer
like explodes,
up.
And it was a very large explosion. I think what made me not mind as much was just how big they went. Like it was just like, hey, fuckhead, watch this! And then the explosion is so big, and I was like, oh, okay.
And then
well, that's
at the end
dumb,
of the episode, it was like fucking classic. Hera was like I said, don't mess with my droid. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? What else could she have said? Like,
just another day in the rebellion.
Yeah. Right. You play with fire, you're gonna get burned.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
That wasn't the thing that got me. What's the word I'm looking for?
Got me fucked up.
That wasn't the thing that got me fucked up. The thing that kind of fucked up with me a little bit is the idea that Hera would be like willing to like risk Chopper's life just in order to get revenge.
Yeah,
But he's wearing plot armor, so it doesn't fucking...
No, I know.
Yes,
it didn't get me that
point.
It wasn't like a severe critique. It was just something I noticed that could potentially bother people.
It is like, she does literally say like, they can't do that to my droid, and then
Are you okay?
like,
I just did this.
yeah, and I did kind of know. Yeah, but it was. I did notice that, but I was just like, okay, I'm glad this is done, and after this, AP5 is gonna sing, so that'll win me back. And that's it.
There was one bit, I couldn't tell or not if it was a reference to Wallace and Gromit, but it just looked exactly like Wallace and Gromit.
Have we brought up Wallace and Gromit on the podcast before?
Probably once or twice, yeah.
Okay.
But it just looked exactly like the Wrong Trousers episode where he just kind of magnetizes onto the ship and flips upward.
You know what? I'm going to say it definitely was a reference because they're all animators here, and I'm sure they all love Wallace and Gromit.
That's true.
Wallace and Gromit is some fucking legit shit.
Wallace and Gromit is great.
Claymation, shout out.
Don't
Get
remember
this.
it.
Claymation Senate spin-off short series.
This is the last droid-centric episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty sure.
Damn.
High note, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked all the droid episodes. There was only 2, 3, but I thought they were all good.
If those pink butterflies exist everywhere in space, how come they're not constantly on the windshield of...
The wipers?
You are listening to The World Between Worlds. Next week, we're wrapping up Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. We're talking Twin Suns and...
0 Hour.
0 Hour, Part 1 and Part 2. Exciting stuff. Very exciting.
Twin Suns? What could that be about?
It's about my 2 twin sons.
Shout out to Le Creuset, who just came out with the Twin Sun Star Wars themed Le Creuset collection.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Fuck.
yes. Very cool.
And isn't the Tatooine cooker like $800?
Probably. My name's Wedge.
My name's Hobby.
My name is Hera, and like I said, don't mess with my droid.